Welcome to the Sober Edge podcast, inspiration for alcohol-free living. I'm your host, Terry Patterson, functional nutritionist and This Naked Mind senior coach. The Sober Edge is a place to explore the infinite possibilities on the other side of drinking. In a culture soaked in booze, discover the wonder and joy of taking a different path. Meet real people living lives of purpose and passion, learn the truth behind the alcohol myths, and get ready to be motivated, inspired, and astounded by what is possible with the Sober Edge. You're listening to episode 162 of the Sober Edge podcast. This episode is brought to you by The Self Experience. The Self Experience is a place for you as a woman who has become alcohol-free to explore living alcohol-free. Yes, this exact journey that I have been on for the past 9 years, I want to invite you to experience. This is a place where we get to know ourselves, grow ourselves, love ourselves, and be ourselves. This is a place of infinite possibility on the other side of alcohol. It's a small group experience with women who choose to explore going deeper. I have such a passion for all that I've experienced and created in this alcohol-free life, and the self-experience is the culmination of these experiences. I've coached women one-on-one. I've coached women in groups of 250 or more. I've worked with entrepreneurs and other alcohol-free coaches. I led a retreat for entrepreneurs in this business space. I currently coach in another large group. And what I've recognized is that I want to bring this knowledge, wisdom, expertise, and passion to you. So if you are excited about how life is changing on the other side of alcohol, if you're wondering what else is possible, I want to invite you to lean in to this place of discovering more about yourself. Today, I talk about 9 years alcohol-free and looking ahead. There is infinite possibility between becoming alcohol-free and living alcohol-free. Let's explore this together. The self-experience starts next month. You can find out more in the show notes. Please join the interest list, and I promise to send you more information if you want to get on a call and learn if this program is right for you. I am happy to spend time exploring what's next, what now. All right, on to today's episode, 9 years looking ahead. Well, hey everyone, it's Terry back with another edition of the Sober Edge podcast. And if you haven't listened to part 1 of this episode, I want to invite you to go back to episode 161, Becoming Alcohol Free. Because today I'm going to talk about kind of this part 2. I truly believe there is 2 parts of this journey, and maybe even possibly a third part or beyond. But for me, I like to define the 2 parts as becoming alcohol-free and living alcohol-free. So in part 1 of this episode, I talked about becoming alcohol-free and the choices that we make, the path that can look very different for many people, and the time that it takes to actually become alcohol-free starts well before that first or second opportunity, that first or second day to say, I'm no longer drinking. I believe that that's not the first step in becoming alcohol-free. So if you haven't listened to that part 1, please, I invite you to do that. And today I want to talk about living alcohol-free. And the reason I like to make the distinction is because I think for the first year of our alcohol-free journey, and for some people it might look a little different. It might be 9 months, it might be 2 years. But I think for the very first part of our journey, we are truly focusing on becoming alcohol-free. Initially, we're going through the detoxification, maybe some gentle withdrawals, such as feeling extra irritable, being dehydrated, tired. Perhaps we're going through some adjustments of our sleep is a little off kilter in the beginning. We perhaps are having better sleep, perhaps we're having less sleep, perhaps the quality of our sleep is good, but the quantity is bad. And so all of these things are part of becoming alcohol free. And we're learning what our new normal is, what our new set point is. And our brain is doing a lot of adjustment. Our brain is letting go of the toxin of alcohol. It's learning to balance that reward pathway. There is this incredible place where our brain has this pain pleasure pathway and the reward system. And a lot of this has to do with dopamine, but there's other chemicals at play. And when we stop drinking alcohol, part of becoming alcohol free is allowing our brain to reset from that pain balance and pleasure balance to a more stable homeostasis, if you will. And that's a big part of becoming alcohol free. So we have the behavior, we have the chemical part, and then we have the emotional part. So the behavior part is really not drinking, becoming alcohol free by creating new habits, new rituals, new behaviors that we choose to pour a different substance in the glass. We choose to perhaps not go to certain events for a while. We might say no to some of those boozy events or hanging out with friends we know that could potentially create some tension around our decision not to drink. Then we create new habits about learning to maybe exercise in the evenings as opposed to the mornings so that we don't have to deal with the created mess of, what happens at 1 o'clock or at that time when we normally would have drank. And so, there's a lot going on in the first 6 to 12 to 18 months that's really becoming alcohol free. And it's a very important part of this journey, but it's just the beginning. I'm currently working with an organization where people are in a 90-day supported program. And it's incredible the changes they can make in 90 days. But it's so important to recognize that 90 days is just the very beginning of becoming alcohol free. And so, beyond becoming alcohol free, we have this beautiful opportunity to live alcohol free. And that's what I want to talk about today. So for me, it was about 9 to 12 months where I really made that transition from becoming alcohol free to starting to live alcohol free. And the reason that I think there is this difference, it's this mental shift around no longer focusing on the behavior or the habit of not drinking, and instead being able to see into the future, this big, bold, beautiful life that is your new normal. It's living in this new place where alcohol is not driving the bus, where alcohol is not controlling the hours or the thoughts or the chemical reaction of your brain. You're not thinking about drinking. You're not engaging in the behavior of drinking. You're not recovering from drinking. And I've talked often that it really creates this kind of space. And it's one of my favorite things about living alcohol free is that now we have the opportunity to change our future. I don't know about you, but for me, when I was drinking and over drinking, it was like Groundhog Day. The same thing kept happening again and again. The promise not to drink, the self awareness that I didn't want to drink, and then I'd drink and I'd be disappointed. And then I'd try to take a break, and then I'd struggle with not taking a break. Anyway, you get the picture. I've talked about it a lot, but Groundhog Day. And so once that connection to alcohol and that pattern was out of the way, what really opened up was this opportunity to be in a place of asking what now, what next. And for me, that's where I moved into finishing up my health coaching certification with the Nutritional Therapy Association. And that was in November of 2016. And so I'm coming up on 8 years that I have been a certified functional nutritionist. And so I started living alcohol free. I started showing up in every place that I went into as someone who was a non drinker. And when I went into nutrition school, that's how I showed up. I told people right away, I'm not drinking. And then a couple years later, I was back. 3 years later, I was back supporting a group of functional nutritionists in training. I was one of the group leaders, and I was able to share that I'm going into a coaching certification about alcohol freedom when I was going in to become a This Naked Mind alcohol free coach. And it was interesting because I don't think they really got it. But I was living alcohol free. I was showing up. I was pursuing new passions and old passions. And I was learning to try new things. I was learning to say yes. I was learning to say no. And so, in these last 8 years, after becoming alcohol free, all of that time and sort of that first 12 months, in these past 8 years, living alcohol free has been such an incredible experience and such a gift. And it's allowed me to move in directions that I never would have expected. Certainly, getting my health coaching certification was not on my radar. And then learning about the certification through This Naked Mind and becoming a This Naked Mind coach, I was in that very first class. So I really did get that tangible connection with Annie Grace. And I received incredible mentorship and training, and that wasn't on my radar. So all of these things were created out of this experience of living alcohol free. You know, choosing to move in new directions with my business, to become an entrepreneur, to collaborate with certain individuals, to try new things. All of that has come out of this opportunity to live alcohol free. And so if you are in that place of perhaps considering what it would be like to give up alcohol and to start becoming alcohol free. I hope that living alcohol free will also be in your vision. I want to invite you to cast that vision forward so that you can actually see that there's so much more than just changing the behavior of drinking. And this beautiful opportunity to live alcohol free means you get to connect with your real self. You get to do that emotional work around who am I really? Who am I when I'm not avoiding or numbing or kicking the can down the road? Who am I when I'm showing up fully present without my armor of numbing and drinking? It's really an incredible experience. And when we're in the process of exploring becoming alcohol free, maybe we're dipping our toe in, maybe we've been alcohol free for a while, but we're not yet sure how to move from becoming to living alcohol free. Again, I want you to cast that vision forward. I want you to see, like, if this thing that's holding me back, if it was out of my realm, if it was out of my life, if I set it aside, what could I do instead? And for me, these types of questions changed everything because they allowed me to explore who I wanted to become. And they allowed me to connect with the past version of me before I was drinking and over drinking. They allowed me to cast that vision toward the future vision of me and see myself as strong and capable and vibrant and someone who can make an impact. And so this is the gift of living alcohol free. And again, I don't know if there's a third stage, but I will tell you that this beautiful place of living alcohol free is just on the other side of becoming alcohol free. And keep going, keep allowing yourself to cast that vision forward, to recognize the beautiful gifts that are inherent in this choice of using this space that's been created to move things out of the way, invite new things in. All of the things that are in our life are they are out of our choice. And we get to use this time of living alcohol free to take a closer look and say, is this relationship serving me? Is this career the thing I'm passionate about? Is this what lights me up? How do I want to show up in the world? Who do I want to spend time with? All of these things are available to us living alcohol free. And so I wanted to share last week, or in part one of this episode, I shared 4 things that I've embraced in becoming alcohol free. And now I want to share 5 things that I have embraced in living alcohol free. And 4 and 5 together make 9. I'm celebrating my 9 years alcohol freedom on October 18th of 2024. So that's coming up a couple of days after I record this episode. And I just couldn't be more thrilled to share this with you. And I hope it will inspire you. I know that many people were an inspiration to me when I was just becoming alcohol free. And many people have been an inspiration to me as I have been living alcohol free. And so I hope that perhaps I could be one of those people for you, and that you will continue to seek out those people. All right. So the first thing that I have embraced in living alcohol free is self-compassion. And this is a place that we often spend a lot of time where we can, beat ourselves up. We can live in regret of what, we did or didn't do when we were drinking or over drinking. And in living alcohol free, I have, allowed myself to be more gentle with myself. I've really let myself off the hook in a lot of ways. I've reminded myself that, hey, I'm an incredible human doing hard things, and I'm making progress every day. And self-compassion has been a choice, and it's really helped me embrace who I can still become. Because all of the time that I spent beating myself up did not help me create the best version of me. And so when I think about my life here at 64 years old, I think I'm still evolving and growing. And self compassion allows me to create this beautiful version of myself. The second thing is curiosity. And I talk about curiosity a lot because I probably have always been someone with this curious nature, but I have really embraced it as I have been living alcohol free. Because one thing is that it allows me to suspend judgment. When I get curious, I can say, I wonder why this is happening, or I wonder why someone thinks that, or I wonder why I chose to behave in this way, as opposed to making snap judgments such as this is bad, this is good, this is unfair. Instead, when I get really curious, it invites that inquiry that helps me see things from a new perspective, or helps me zoom out and have a different perspective. I also think that curiosity has helped me in my career as an entrepreneur and as an alcohol freedom coach. And it's helped me embrace, ideas and follow through and try new things and explore what might be next. And it's been a beautiful part of you know, uh, challenging myself in new ways, and then deciding if I want to continue to pursue something that I was curious about. And many of my curiosities have turned into passions, and these passions have led me to new heights in my career, offering new things. And it's been a beautiful journey. Curiosity, if you haven't explored how to be more curious, I really invite you to do that, because in living alcohol free, we can start to train our mind to just explore new pathways. And it's a beautiful part of this journey. It certainly has been for me. The number 3 thing that I really think about living alcohol free is responsibility. And when we are in that place of shame and guilt of drinking and over drinking, we are often also playing the blame game. Now, we might be blaming our circumstances, we might be blaming other people, and you've probably heard it said that it's not your fault, but it is your responsibility. And for me, in the becoming alcohol free, I had to start to drop the blaming. And blaming, if we think about it, blaming really takes away our power. It zaps our power because we say, well, someone else is responsible, or I can't control that, or it's not my fault. And when we're in that place, we're powerless. And so I didn't want to be powerless anymore. And so that meant I had to drop the blame that was in my life. And then in living alcohol free, I have been learning and exploring how to become responsible. Years ago, I had shared last week or in my last part one of this episode in my newsletter that I've always been kind of a personal development junkie. And so, probably 25 years ago, I read Jack Canfield's Principles of Success. And he talked about taking 100% responsibility for your life. Whew, that is a daunting task. And so, in living alcohol free, I have grown so much in this area of taking responsibility. It's not perfect, it's still hard. I'm still a work in progress. Sometimes I want to not admit mistakes or not own up to the things where I dropped the ball. But in learning to take 100% responsibility, it's such a gift because it puts me back in that seat of power. It gives me the responsibility to create the change I want to see. And so that's something that I have really embraced in living alcohol free. The other part I touched on just briefly is regret. So, in living alcohol free, I have really done a 180 on my feelings about regret. When I was still drinking and over drinking, I used to say, well, I have no regrets. And oh my goodness, that was such a falsehood. I guess perhaps there was a part of me that wanted to believe that or wanted to think that I just could go through life confident and unscathed. But it's not true. I think we all have regrets. And I used to, when I was becoming alcohol free, I did spend some time looking back and feeling those regrets and ruminating about the past. And it was a challenging place. Do I have regrets? Do I not have regrets? Do I push them aside or resist them? And so, in becoming alcohol free, I was recognizing that I did, in fact, have regrets. But the gift of living alcohol free is now I have learned that regrets are a powerful motivator. Regrets show me what is important to me now and where I can double down and build on the life I want to live by looking at the past, not with rumination and not with guilt, but with a perspective that says, yes, I was doing the best I could with the tools I had at the time. Some of those tools were crappy. I let myself down. I let other people down. And now I know I want to do it different. And so I invite you as you move from becoming alcohol free to living alcohol free to give yourself the gift of regret. It's a powerful, powerful gift. And it can really help you move through the next phase of your life, living alcohol free with a beautiful perspective of knowing and now doing better. And I just think it's one of the most powerful things. In fact, I've talked and taught little mini workshops all about the power of regret and I think I might have even done a podcast. So if I did in the past, I will go and look back and see if I can remember to link that in the show notes. But I want to invite you to think about where are you with regrets and think about how living alcohol free can change your entire perspective around regrets. And then finally, personal growth. Oh my gosh. I was always a personal growth junkie from long ago, but I didn't really allow myself to go to that level of belief that allowed me to leap into a new stratosphere. And I feel like living alcohol free is this big, beautiful present that I get to unwrap, and I get to look inside and I get to say, what can I learn now? Where can I grow? And the growth might be a simple thing of learning to apologize. It might be a simple thing of learning to ask for help. Or it might be something bigger, like challenging myself to take a course from Stanford University on the psychology of addiction. It might be growing by challenging myself to uh, try new things in my business, go to work for another company and grow and stretch myself to learn new things. And so, this beautiful gift of personal growth and lifelong learning, it really keeps us alive. And so, in living alcohol free, I'm living this life of learning and growth. And we see it in nature all the time, right? In order for things to grow, they need watering and nurturing and sunlight and all of these things. And so we too can build a place in living alcohol free where we are allowing ourselves to receive the gifts that are poured into us from living life and then also learning about life and doing that deeper work of getting in touch with our emotions, getting in touch with what really makes us come alive. So, those are 5 additional things that I have learned on this journey so far about living alcohol free. And I hope that this serves to inspire you and motivate you to keep going wherever you are on this journey. It's so much more than just not drinking alcohol. And it's so hard to grasp that when we're still in that beginning stage. But I think it's been helpful for me to think about behavior comes last. Like this is about so much more than just the behavior of drinking or not drinking. It's really about embracing this lifestyle and becoming alcohol free, allowing yourself to go through that difficult, painful rebirth, if you will, and embracing all of the gifts along the way and giving yourself time and just sticking with it through the hard parts. And then on the other side of becoming alcohol free, we have this incredible opportunity to live alcohol free. So that's a little glimpse into what these 9 years have meant to me. I can't wait to hear perhaps where you are in your journey. So please reach out and let me know if this was resonant for you. What's next for you? What are you noticing as you're becoming alcohol free? What's happening for you as you're living alcohol free? And what do you think might be next? All right. Well, it was wonderful to hang out with you as always on the Sober Edge podcast, and I will see you next week. I want to thank you for tuning in to the Sober Edge podcast. This is a place for important conversations and a safe place to question everything you thought you knew about drinking. If you're looking for your sober edge, I want to invite you to connect with me at thesobernutritionist.com, where you can grab my free resource, Becoming More, a guide to loving your sober life. And I would be so grateful if you enjoyed this podcast, if you would leave a rating and review, as it will help more people find their sober edge.